What's up, you guys? Happy Saturday night. We're crushing it with really exciting things like talking to you guys. Yes. So we said we're going to go live for 5 days about resolutions and why they probably haven't worked for you in the past. So today is day 2. My brain was thinking farther than what I was saying. So today is day 2. Give us a hello when you jump on. So day 1, we chatted with you guys yesterday. Today we're going to talk about the 3 H's of why resolutions don't work and what to do instead. So, the first H, you want to go first?
We did how?
Sure. There's 3 H's. There's no order.
So what else? How, hustle, and heart. Right? So we'll talk about how. So when it comes to essentially anything that we've seen people get fixated on, you guys, is getting fixated on the how. Right? And so it's always, this diet I'm going to be doing, this exercise program I'm going to be doing, this outline of whatever it may be doing. And are those things important? Yes. But what we have found, you guys, is we get so just wrapped up into the how of the process that it goes through, or like the how that I'm going by is going to require this, and there's no other way of going about it. And so what we have found, you guys, is if we can shift that, instead of focusing on the how, it's being very deliberate on what it is that you want, being clear and concise about what you want, and then more than anything, why it is so vitally important that you accomplish that or move yourself towards accomplishing that. Because I think for all of us, if you can discover those 2 things for yourself, of really living into the what it is that you want and why it is so vital for you to accomplish that. If for the how, if you come up on and you're doing something that maybe not be producing the results that you want, or you may get stuck or whatever, you can always find a different way. You can always discover a different how. But if you aren't clear and concise on the what and the why you're doing it, you're going to continue having the same repetitive habits happen over and over and over, because we're focusing on the wrong thing, and because yet again, all the guru teachers that are out there on social media and we live in, they got this magical program, they got this magical pill, they got this magical unicorn that you can ride that's going to produce all these results that you've been trying to accomplish for years, when in all actuality, we just probably haven't been clear enough and concise enough on what it is that you truly want and why it is so vitally important for you to move yourself in the direction of what you're trying to accomplish.
So when you think about this, guys, and it's not like you're not going to have to make some shifts and do some work, right? It's not like you're just going to sit back and be like, all right, cool, I know why and I know what, but I don't actually have to do anything. But the difference is, you guys, is that when we're focusing on the how, that's fear-based, right? It's fear-based. We're going to talk about rules and boundaries tomorrow, but it puts you in a sense of fear of like, okay, well, if I just know how I'm going to get there, I'm going to bury my head and I'm going to do the thing, right? And you're like this. But if you're looking at where you want to go, then you're going to be pulled to that versus pushed. Like the how is pushing you, where the what and the why pull you to that person and to that feeling and to that sensation, versus like, okay, well, if I just do these things, then maybe magically at the end I'm going to end up with this feeling, which is what we're all chasing at the end of it. Okay, so I really want you guys to think about like, why are you doing this, and what is your reasoning, right? And how do you want to feel when you get to that point? How do you want to feel? And then we're going to work backwards to reverse engineer that of how you get there. Okay, so the how is actually keeping you stuck, not actually helping you move towards that goal.
Well, in addition to that, I think for some people, the how can be essentially fulfilling your need for certainty, right? Like this, I know this is my plan. I've got this 30-day plan. I'm doing the whole 30. I'm doing this, whatever million things that are out there nowadays. This is the plan. It tells me if I start day 1, I'm going to exude this result at the end of it, right? Like we get into the challenger mentality. We get into this short-term thing of change and everything else of the, I have a friend that did this magical keto blah, blah, blah thing, and it produced, these amazing results in 14 hours, right? Like oftentimes it's fulfilling our need for certainty and that our sense of control, you can call it that, right? Like I'm a control freak. As long as I know I'm doing this program on the how, I know I'm going to be successful. When really, how many times have you done that in your lifetime of you've started something that has all these promised results, but you kind of forget the 2 other reasons why you started it, of the what and the why, and you fall by the wayside because it doesn't produce the results of really what you want it to, because it was a big marketing scheme.
And sometimes the how, here's another H, right? Sometimes the how gives you some hope. Like, okay, well, if I just do these things, I don't actually have to like lean in and look at the bigger vision, and hopefully just magically in 30 days or whatever it is, I'll be there, right? So, and this goes to anything, you guys, whether it's weight loss, whether it's changing your financial situation, whether it's attracting more love into your life. Like, it doesn't matter what the thing is. If we don't know why and we don't know what, then you're never going to get there.
Now, I want to put this out to you guys because it's important, because I think sometimes when we discuss these things, it can fall on the aspect, well, you're telling me the systems of what we're doing isn't important. The systems are very important to what we're doing, right? Like, you can't just throw paint on the wall and expect it to, well, maybe now sometimes you can, and expect it to be a Picasso, right? There has to be a systematic approach to why you do certain things, and so it's going to yield results. But at the same time, if you get stuck or it's not producing what you want, you can always change the plan. But if you get so fixated on, no, this is how I'm doing it, and I'm going to be stubborn, I'm going to push myself through, and you end up being essentially the fly that continues flying into the window over and over and over, when essentially if you take a step back and realize the door's right next to it, right? Like, if you realize that, then we can make changes on there, but it starts with the what and the why as opposed to the how.
Right, exactly. Okay, so the number one is the how. Number two is the hustle, okay? So this is going to go into a little more what we were talking about, but I've come to have a very negative relationship with the word hustle because it was a state. To me, hustle is a feeling, and it was a feeling that we lived in for a very long time. And so for us, and maybe you guys feel this way, maybe that you don't have the same correlation, but to us, it's like hustle is the pushing of the how, right? It's got to be hard. I got to be doing. I got to be da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? Like, we're putting ourselves into overwhelm, and we're putting ourselves in this sense of like always having to be doing, right? And oftentimes it's like we've said all the time, is like when we actually slow down and we get quiet and we actually go inside and we let the answers come through us and to us, instead of trying to go chase the answers and chase the goal and chase the things, they're already there. And so if we can take a step back and slow down a little bit, and this doesn't mean don't act, yet again, it's not like we're going to do nothing, but to me, hustle is this like feeling of chasing and like doing and struggle and overwhelm. And so it's like, we don't want you guys to be in hustle. Instead, we want to be in flow, right? Because when we're pushing against something, like if I push against Brandon, he's going to push back, right? He's not going to come to me. He's going to push back. And that's the same thing of what you're chasing in your life, is when you're chasing, it's going to run. And when you're pushing on it, it's going to push away, right? So if you want to attract things into your life, you need to be open and receive and flow and let them happen and get in that energy, so that that's actually going to happen, versus that energy of like struggle and hustle and go that sense, right? So many of us were like, okay, like I relaxed during the holidays, and then January 1st comes and I'm going to go for it, right? And yeah, I want you guys to be moving with inspired action, but to me, hustle again is a forced, I have to feeling. Same thing as the how, right? It's have to, not get to or want to.
Oh, because with that, you guys, I'm sure you probably hustle for your worth, grinding, all those kind of things. And are there certain aspects of those mentality that are vital for you to see yourself through, right? Like, yeah, do you need grit at certain times? Do you need those things? Absolutely, right? But the reason why we're so passionate about this is because, especially as business owners, like we've owned our own, like we've independently had our own business and everything else for 12, almost 15 years, and we've been in business together for 10 years. And as entrepreneurs and all that kind of things, especially as athletes, it's always, you have to be grinding, you have to be hustling, you have to hustle for your worth, right? Like, you have to be working 23 and a half hours a day, and if you're not doing that, you actually don't want it bad enough and everything. And like, we live by the notion of, your actions do speak louder than words. If you're always just talking a big game, but you're really not putting forth the effort on there, you're never going to get really what you say that you want. But most importantly on that is understanding that doesn't have to come from a place of essentially fear, right? Of I have to hustle for my worth. I have to outwork the person next to me, because really the only person that is really important that you work for is yourself. And understanding that what you're probably partaking on and the goal that you're trying to, that hopefully we can get you guys to think about a little bit, is as you're going through this process of creating your resolution or your goal or your vision for yourself, is the vision is for you. Right? Like, it may be a partner duo or whatever it may be, but at the same time, if I know I'm not creating the best vision for myself, I'm only going to be ultimately letting her down. I'm going to be letting my family down. I'm going to be letting everything else down because I'm not creating the vision that's going to ultimately live into my soul and make me happy because I'm hustling and always pushing against the wall as opposed to realizing that I get to flow and I get to create the things that I want without feeling like I'm constantly not worthy or working myself to the bone because what I'm creating every moment in time isn't going to necessarily be good enough until I arrive. And really the understanding is I never am going to arrive because the person I become along the journey is going to be a bigger, better version of myself before I started. And so once I get to the place that I think I want to and arrive to, I'm going to be constantly looking for the next version of myself to try to create because I've outgrown that person that started the journey in the first place.
And again, like, it doesn't mean you guys, because I know this was a big thing for us to where we were, like, always working, and literally, like, if I walked downstairs and Brayden wasn't working, he would, like, grab something and try to act like he was working, right? It was this weird thing that, we always felt like we had to be working, and, like, I look at our lives now, right, like, from 2 years ago, and we're doing more, like, we're actually doing more, but it's an energy of ease and flow and acceptance and receiving, and it's not this, like, chasing energy, right? So it doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing things and moving and acting, but it's the energy around it where it just feels fun and it feels easy, and it's the want to, not the have to.
Yeah, it's not have to, because trust me, we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Like, I go to bed 9:30, 10 o'clock after reading and doing all those kind of things. Like, we do a lot of work, but the feeling and the intention around it, because I think that's the biggest part around hustle and everything else, is you can produce the same results. But the intention behind that can be two completely different feelings, two different, completely different experiences of what you have. Because you can make $1 million, you can get a job promotion, you can get all these things, but if you're miserable by the time you arrive at that and essentially nothing is good enough, that's not winning. That's not going to allow yourself to be successful. You may get there, but I guarantee it's not going to be sustainable. And I think that's the key component to any sort of goal that we should aspire towards. It should be sustainable over a long duration of time. Not just like, sweet, you look back 20 years ago, 30 years ago in your lifetime, you're like, once upon a time I was able to accomplish that. Once upon a time I was happy. Once upon a time I made my spouse happy. Once upon a time I was happy and proud of myself. But instead it's understanding that we can create that with our intention of moving towards our why and our what, with a sense of obstacles are going to come on, but instead of a sense of always going against the grain, it can flow, like Court said.
Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the last one, you guys, is hard, right? Like, so many people are like, all right, and I lived into this, like, for a long, we both did, right? The harder it is, the, like, better I am, right? Like, I think there was some significance there, but it was like, okay, I'm going to do this challenge. I'm going to do a whole 30, and I'm going to do intermittent fasting, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to right? Like, we stack all this stuff on there because it's like, okay, well, if I have all these rules and it's really hard, I'm going to totally crush it and I'm going to feel super proud of myself. Because for some reason in our society, we've been taught that we need to struggle, that things need to be hard, that, like, we have to hustle, we have to push. And it's like, it's the total opposite of that. It's like, if it's super ultra hard and it's this crazy thing, you're not going to probably go from where you are to what that is. So what we want to figure out is, like, what feels good, what pulls me, what feels easy. And it's so funny because when I tell people, like, I tell my coaching clients all the time, I'm like, this should feel easy. And they're like, okay, right? Like, they look at me like I have two heads, right? Because we have learned, and I was that person, the harder it is, the more whatever, like, the bigger of a, like, challenge it's going to be, because I needed that challenge to want to push me, right? Versus, like, well, if I have this vision and it's pulling me and it gets to feel easy, and yet again, like, easy doesn't mean you're not working, but it feels energetically like, yeah, I want to do this. I get to do this. I get to show up for myself. So the energy doesn't need to be hard. But I think for so many of us, we're going to talk about rules tomorrow, but it's that same thing. Like, if I have more rules and it's harder, then I'm probably going to do it. And the other side of that is that if we make it super hard and then we don't complete it, we're like, well, that was just really freaking hard. So I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't give up sugar for 30 days, right? And so it's almost in a way like a way to set up yourself to self-sabotage because we make it so hard, right? And so I think, to me, that's the other H. And when I actually accepted that life was happening for me and it got to be easy and it got to be flowy, I was like, this feels weird. And I've, like, pushed against it for a long time because I was like, I don't know how to show up in this energy of ease. And then once I did, I was like, oh, well, this is this is really cool. I get to just do what feels good and take care of myself and lean into that vision versus like trying to push myself into this crazy extreme thing that everybody's pushing, right? Like extreme exercise, extreme this. It's like, no, that doesn't actually get you anywhere. And like Brandon said, you're going to quit because like it's the hustle mentality.
So ultimately, we want to put this out there, you guys, because for us, 10 years ago when we first did, or we first started off, we did an initial nutrition challenge. But, our intention behind there was basically coming from a place of curiosity of like the person that we listened to as far as the seminar we went to of like, if you do this, I promise in 30 days, you will never go back to eating the normal atypical American way. And so we did a 50-day challenge, right? It was essentially no processed food for 50 days. And it changed our lives. Like it changed the way that we look at food. It changed those things. So are we saying that doing these things are non-beneficial? No, absolutely not. But I think, yet again, it comes back to the intention of what you're doing it for, and the why and the what of the result you're trying to move yourself towards. But ultimately, you guys, it's understanding the component of when we go about choosing certain things, because I've already seen it a million times on my Facebook feed coming through of like, I got this 70-day challenge. It makes it requires you to wake up at 3 a.m. You got to work out, and then it requires you to do another hour and a half workout at night. You're not allowed to ever have any sugar. You're not allowed to. You must read 3 books every 2 weeks. Yeah, and are those things beneficial? Yes, they absolutely can be. Learning those things can be beneficial. But are they beneficial for you to sustain success? And is it going to be a process that you enjoy? Because I think that's the other part that gets kind of thrown out there, because yet again, the world we live in is hard is better, more is better. If you're doing a little bit today, you got to throw on 4 shovels worth of everything. Well, and what we've seen, because we can speak to this, you guys, because we've been doing this for 20 years. We've worked with thousands of people, that the mentality that we live by is more is always better. And because Lord knows I'm going to be bragging about it on Facebook. And so I can't tell them that I literally just went for a walk around my block today. That's not sexy, right? My friends don't want to hear me and give me a high five for like, sweet, you tied your training shoes today, you went for a walk, that's great. Or like, you know what? You ate 3 servings of vegetables. How spectacular is that, right? Like that doesn't create like an exuberant feeling in you. But at the same time, if you could feel success, where if you're coming from somebody who's never exercised and all of a sudden you're walking around the block, that's progress. That's moving the needle, right? Like that, if you can experience that and live into that every single day, that stacks it. That's building the foundation for you to feel happy, free, love for yourself, because you're keeping your promise to yourself, right? Like what we try to tell and preach out to people on there is make this, find your goal, find your what, and find the smallest thing that you could possibly do that unless you chose not to do it, you're going to not be successful, right? Like I said, if it's for somebody who's coming from exercise that they look at as punishment because they have to work out, right? Because they want to lose weight, because they feel like they need to in order to get love from a spouse or whatever like that. Okay, what if instead of despising exercise, what if it was you get to go for a walk around the block and become one with your thoughts, or like become whatever it may be, right? Like you get to tie your shoes for the day. It's a small incremental thing that you can feel progress on, and then all of a sudden that stacks on there, and you're doing things that you never thought you could do because you're happy and you're enjoying the process.
And you're creating trust, right? Like, that's kind of a tangent, but like the biggest thing, you guys, is that you're creating trust with yourself. And when we start to trust ourselves and when we are taking inspired action, it does start to feel easy, right? The opposite of making it feel hard is it actually gets to feel easy. And trust me, you guys, we did 6-week challenges, right? And that's why we're doing Shift, and that's why we're so passionate about helping you guys do this differently this year, because we did that, and it was a shocking learning process for us, because we saw people that like did these 42-day challenges and they did amazing and they lost all this weight, and like from the outside we're like, oh my god, this is amazing, they should be so happy, and then day 43 they gave up on themselves, and it's like, this isn't working, right? We're not saying this like, oh, challenges are terrible, right? Like we've seen this happen over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The ones that either didn't make it at all, or the ones that made it and then went right back to where they were. And that's what we don't want to have happen for you guys. So it's not like we're just like pulling these concepts out of the sky and it's just like, oh, well, this is what it is, right? It's like, no, we've seen this and it's not working. And that's why we want to teach you guys to shift in 2020 instead of like making these massive go all in, make it hard, hustle for your worth, do that stuff, right? Because the people that we've worked with that have shifted, they're consistently doing this and they're smiling more and they're happy and they're making changes, right? And it's not happening overnight, but the deeper stuff that's happening in here, and that's what we want to teach you guys on that vision and that mission, like that stuff matters so much more than if the scale is moving as fast as you want it to, right? Like we talk about weight loss just because that's how you guys might know us as gym owners, but like that's not the biggest piece. And so that's really why we're trying to teach you guys this, is that we want to help you actually do this right. So unless you have anything else, we should probably...
Well, I think we'll hop up. But I think one question I just wanted, because yet again, I think if we can get ourselves asking different questions, we can get different answers, we can get different results. But I want you guys to ask this for yourself, is, you know, because the school of thought that we've been taught to is harder is always better, more is always better. You know, you need this big how, you need all these kind of things. Is the reason for which you gravitate towards those things, is it because first you don't have trust within yourself? Right? Do you feel that you need, we're going to talk about rules and everything else tomorrow, but do you feel you need some sort of elaborate, hard plan that overpromises oftentimes but underdelivers because you don't actually hold trust within yourself? Because how many times have you gone through this process of, I'm going to start this year, January 1st is going to be my year that I'm going to change my entire lifestyle and I'm going to overcome. How many times have you done that, and how many times have you found yourself right back into the same place? And so what we're trying to do, you guys, is for you to come from a different place, because we've seen it, we've experienced it over and over and over with the clients that we've worked with. And honestly, our mission is to break the norm. Get something else out there to everyone that it goes against the grain of all the gurus, everything else out there, and allow you guys to feel trust, feel love, and feel that, you know, 50 years down the road, you are far beyond what you ever thought you could accomplish today, because you got to create the system that works for you, that was sustainable, that allowed you to feel progress and allowed you to feel enjoyment.
Yeah. So, two things that we want you guys to do. So, there's two things happening. We're going to do a live, so if you're in Colorado and you want to join us live, we're going to do an intention vision setting seminar. We said yesterday it was going to be at 11:30, but that's going to have to change because our niece is lifting, so that's not going to work. So we're going to do 2 o'clock, okay, 2 o'clock on the 4th, so next Saturday, 2 o'clock at the gym. I'll post that on here. So we're going to go through the biggest thing about looking forward is also sort of looking at this year and giving yourself props for things you're proud of. Also looking at the things that maybe didn't go exactly as planned, right? Because like if we don't feel proud of ourselves, we're never going to be able to move forward. But then setting that vision for what we want 2020 to look at or look like, and then we'll probably do a little bit of vision boarding. So we're going to do that live at the gym. And we're going to try to live broadcast it. I'm just not sure how that's going to work. So if you're not in Colorado, Jennifer, I know you asked about this. If you're not in Colorado, I'll see if I can set it up live. If that doesn't work, we can just jump on a call and do it. But anyway, so there's that. And then the next piece is going to be, I know a lot of you are thinking about resolutions. We are going to do our next, so in November, we did our 10-day reset. So it's a gut reset, it's an energy reset, it's a mind reset. It was amazing. We had 40 people join us. It was incredible. So we're going to do that again in January, but we're not going to do it till the 15th, okay? So we're not going to do it on the 1st. So we're going to do it on the 15th. So if you guys want to be a part of that, we'll drop the link here for that. It's $47. It's 10 days of all the knowledge we can throw at you and the information. And then, like, it's everything we can get you in 10 days to get you really bought in so that this really can be the best year. So be on the lookout for the seminar for the 10-day. And then if you have questions, please let us know, and we'll be back live tomorrow talking about rules and boundaries and probably other stuff because we're not very good at staying on topic.
More than anything, appreciate you guys. Happy Saturday night. It's nice to see that we're not the only ones hanging out, hanging out on Facebook. So appreciate you guys. Excited about this, and let's make a mission that is unstoppable. So appreciate y'all.
All right, see you tomorrow.